You're listening to Sudbury News Talk.
I want to show you something.
Stand by. On the morning shift.
Anything
could happen.
Sudbury News Talk on the morning shift.
And good morning, everyone. Welcome to Sudbury News Talk on the morning shift. I'm AJ Walsh. Thanks for being with us this morning. It's a Friday, July the 8th, going into a really awesome weekend. As you can see, it is very nice outside today. Great temperature. We'll get into a little bit of the weather. We'll have some sports for you this morning. Sudbury Spartans men's and juniors will have a little update on their final games coming up this weekend. And so we're going to begin with the story we weren't able to get to yesterday, which is James Top Canada Day. You know, it goes into the whole idea of protesters and some of the things that Canadians are concerned about. And we'll see you later, Billy. Have a great drive into work this morning. And so Billy won't be on the show today because he's en route to work currently. Dave, who's been on the show for the 4 days out of the 5, will not be on the show today. Miles, we're not sure. He'll probably be checking in through commenting as usual. And so Zach's been away for about a week and a half now since, I think, Canada Day. And then this is the day I kind of dreaded from the beginning, is I think I've only done one of them. I'm solo today. So I'm solo today. And so I'm not really solo because I have all you all on. And so thanks for joining us. Thanks for being with us each and every day. I know I look forward to having a conversation with you. Make sure to continue the conversation. Make sure to like and share this. It's the only way to get this conversation out to the community, and that's why we're doing this. We're on community radio, for one, on CKLU. If you're listening, that's how you're catching us. It's a volunteer station that's been around since 1984, and we're so grateful to have the opportunity to be able to have a show on CKLU and have a conversation with all of you via that platform. And you can also catch us on cklu.ca, which is, online. You can also download the Radio Player Canada app, and you can listen to us anytime, anywhere on your favorite device. And so you can also catch us on Facebook Live, which you're probably watching on now. I think that's that's where we have the most viewers, or the audience is the biggest on Facebook Live. And then we also have YouTube Live, which we've just started recently. So we're grateful for that. And thanks for being with us, YouTube and Facebook monitors. We know that you have a job to do as well. And you can get to know a little bit about Sudbury town in Northern Ontario. And today we have a great news story to talk about. The Prime Minister of our great nation was in town with a world-renowned scientist. That doesn't happen every day. So Justin Trudeau, Jane Goodall in town. And so we have a bit of a theme going on today, and that is beginning with our first story that we did not have time to get to yesterday, which is a man that walked across Canada basically with a cause, and we'll get to know him a little bit through maybe a different lens than you might be used to, and we'll talk a little bit about lenses today. We'll talk about media and how they cover things, and maybe how you can look at finding out what really is going on, which is kind of hard to do these days, but we'll give you a couple tools to use in order to know how to do that. But first of all, I want to start off with a little bit of weather, and we'll be right back. So weather brought to you by SudburyWeather.ca, and we're not sure what's happening here. Something's not a clicking, So let's see if mine comes on, no problem. And now let's see if now the other one will come on. Look at that. I just had to go to me first. 14 degrees currently. It's partly cloudy. Humidity 79%. And looking at today, look how little information we have. Usually there's a whole huge write-up, but I love this. Clearing this morning, high of 21, UV index 8 or very high. Tonight, clear, low of 9, and then Saturday, sunny, high of 24, humidex 25, UV index is 8 or very high. Long-range forecast, Saturday, currently, well, today is sunny, Saturday is sunny. Originally, it was Saturday and Sunday were without cloud in the forecast, but now we got some cloud creeping in. Mix of sun and cloud on Sunday, high of 25, and then you got a couple days, 30% chance of rain on Monday, 60% chance of rain on Tuesday. So good chance we're going to get a little bit of rain one or two of those days, and then you can see a little bit of sun forecast for the next few days. All in all, I think that's a pretty positive weather forecast. We'll be right back. Yes, I have to say this is kind of interesting, just kind of being in the studio all by myself. I'm used to just some camaraderie and chatting with different people. You know, we have had so many different people on the show. We've had a Nick, Billy, Miles, Zach, Dave, and and all of y'all commenting. So it just seems, a little bit odd being by myself, but you got to do what you got to do. And so as you can see, we're going to talk a little bit about sports, and that is mainly about the Sudbury Spartans and men's team and juniors. So for the second time this season, both the junior and men's Spartans teams will suit up at home this Saturday, July the 9th at, guess where, James Jerome Field. That's where they play when they're home. Sudbury Junior Spartans host their final game of the 2022 season when they host the Clarington Knights at 4. So they'll have an afternoon game, while the Sudbury Spartans men team will host their final game, home game, of the 2022 season when they host the North Bay Bulldogs. 7 p.m. During the game, the Spartans will present former players Bruce Viancourt and JP Pigeon as their 2022 Hall of Fame inductees. The Junior Spartans will be looking to set the tone for the playoffs this weekend after clinching the North Division, congratulations by the way, title this Saturday. They defeated the Skyhawks 23-9 on July the 2nd, scoring 16 unanswered points during the fourth quarter to improve their win streak to 6 to clinch the title. And as for the men's team, they'll be looking to remain undefeated in the 2022 season, having won their first 4 games of the season. Most recently, the Spartans defense kept the Sarnia Imperials offense silent. Guess I'm looking forward to the playoffs, as they won 41-0 on June the 25th. So here's the thing. Tickets are still available for the game, for all the games. You can get in for the low price of $10. Kids under 12 or kids 12 and under can get in free. The Junior Spartans game will be sponsored by Anmar Mechanical, and the men's game will be sponsored by Shoeless Joe's Sports and Grill. So again, just to recap, 4 o'clock, Junior Spartans, 7 o'clock, the North Bay and men's Spartans game will go ahead. And then Saturday, the 23rd of July, the men's team will be on the road against the Sioux Steelers. And for more information, please visit SudburySpartans.com and follow the Sudbury Spartans on Facebook, both the juniors and the men's team. And they have Twitter and Instagram, so you can catch them all things social media. They also have the new store, that's open in the New Sudbury Shopping Centre. So catch that, and we'll be right back after this. All right, and thanks for sticking around, everyone. We're grateful to have you here. Grateful to have this conversation about the latest issues and events and stories going on each and every day here in our great city. So as usual, we want to get through some of the headlines today, and then we'll finish off with our main story that we want to start with. And so let's just go through some of these headlines. We're going to get back to most of them, and we're going to talk about the headlines as well. So here you have a bunch of pictures. We'll get to show you this here. Bunch of pictures of what happened yesterday with Prime Minister Justin Trudeau, Jane Goodall, planting the 10 millionth tree as part of the grandioso regreening project that is definitely unprecedented here in the greater city of Sudbury. There was a little bit of a write-up here. We'll talk about that, of what one of the Sudbury Star reporters had to say about it. And again, so here's Sudbury.com, a little bit of their take on it. While, protesters scream obscenities at Trudeau, Goodall. Okay, so you got some protesters there as well. So we're going to cover what the actual event was. There's some coverage on some of the protesters, some comments on the protesters, and this is one I really am looking forward to getting to. The Zulich team is tapped for KED development. The Dario dream could still become a reality. Okay, got a little bit of a positive spin there. Talk about that, hopefully. And we did mention this in a previous show about the blue-green algae bloom reported in Lake Ramsey Lake. Ministry of the Environment confirms water samples were positive for, I can't pronounce that name, but anyways, for blue-green algae. How about that? Haha. The Kingsway Entertainment District's future is in doubt heading into council debate. Sticker shock, Sudbury Arena project price tag more than doubles to $215 million. We did mention that in the show, but here's a little bit more information. Here's some more on the Trudeau joins Jane Goodall for planting the 10 millionth tree. I know it seems like we're bouncing a bit around, but it's in the order that things have been shared on our Sudbury News Facebook page. But again, we're just going through it. We'll talk about it. Protesters chant and shout. Prime Minister Justin Trudeau joined world-renowned scientist Jane Goodall for the planting Greater Sudbury's 10 millionth tree as part of the area's 44-year regreening program. You might have saw one of the comments there as we went by. Here's a kind of a good news story. The Ukrainian church invites everyone on a Sunday to a Sunday barbecue to show their support for Ukraine. So if you're hungry on Sunday and you're thinking a barbecue would be just the perfect remedy for your hunger, head down there, and they're going to be barbecuing to show their support for our support for Ukraine. So can you fill up your car for less than $100 is the question, So now it's as low as $1.92 in town. Gas prices fall below $2 a liter for the first time since May. You can still, have hope, even if it's a little bit, that you can fill your car for less than $2 a liter. Here's something from the city of Sudbury. Have your say in the upcoming municipal school board elections. So, yeah, you got a say in that. You can vote for that as well. There's a scam alert if you go to the Sudbury Greater Sudbury Police for seniors. If you're an elderly person and have a loved one, then fraudsters, you want to let them know that fraudsters often target grandparents and scam them out of large sums of money. In most cases, a grandparent receives a phone call from someone claiming to be their grandchild who goes on to say they're in trouble and need money immediately. Common misfortunes include having been in a car accident, getting locked up in jail, or trouble returning from a foreign country. So again, as we get technology increases where, we have, AI that's able to mimic somebody's voice or even their image and voice, let's say, it's going to be very troubling for everyone, not only seniors, but especially seniors. So you'll have somebody mimic the voice through AI of one of their loved ones and then make a telephone call, and they wouldn't know the difference unless they were to ask, and there's a huge tip there. Ask some questions only that individual would know. Like I get them all the time on my messenger. The message comes through someone I barely ever talk to on social media or any other time for that matter, and they just say hello. And then right away I'm like, okay, well, if it is them, I say hello, and they go, did you hear about the new government program where you can get free money? And then I say, oh yeah, so what was your mother's name again? And then they don't respond. Or they say, why are you asking me what my mother's name is? I know that, or something like that. And then I'll ask them another question, and then they don't respond. I say, just get a real job, something like that. Anyways, so it happens quite a bit to me on Messenger. So let's get the comments ready to get up, because you guys are going to be part of the show today more than you know, because you're my special guests. And then we're going to get right into James Topp. I have some interesting stuff from him. So good morning, Jerome. Thanks to have you. It's great to have you here. Thanks for being here. And let's see here. That's right. The only thing that can't be taken away is hope. And you're right. And I'm always going to have it. And you know what? Even if our world is interesting, we live in, and there's all kinds of things going on, we can still choose things within our world that we're in. And then let's unpack this particular topic here. And then you have a fellow by the name of James Topp, who is he already walked across Canada from Vancouver to Ottawa to speak in Ottawa on Canada Day about the things that that he feels are important. And that one particular thing is freedom. If you're interested in one thing, freedom would be definitely a thing that I would be interested in for many, many, many reasons. But here we have James Topp, who definitely is interested in that and has taken a stand to address the situation. And so here's the article we shared yesterday. James Topp says he'll continue his anti-vaccine march, mandate march. Oh, he is. He's on his way to Newfoundland. Okay, cool. See, that's what getting into the news helps us with. So James Topp says he'll continue that. Here's a quote from him. Pretty much everyone I've talked to about it during the march was very positive, was a very positive experience for them. Okay. The soldier who walked from Vancouver to Ottawa to protest COVID-19 vaccine mandates says he'll continue making his point by marching all summer and fall to reach Newfoundland and Labrador. So I'm just going to fight the pop-ups here and stuff as we get through this. James Topp, whose June 30th arrival in Ottawa for a ceremony at the National War Memorial attracted about 1,300 supporters, has become a key figure in a protest movement that began with the Freedom Convoy. As we all know, very divisive with the media coverage and people's opinions about it. You had people on one side or on another, and it seemed to really kind of divide the country. But that's where all this started, that occupied downtown Ottawa last winter. Topp wasn't part of the convoy, although he has said he was inspired by it. Many of the people and organizations that supported the convoy are promoting his march. In an interview last Wednesday, Topp said he was encouraged to continue because of the reaction he encountered from thousands of people as he met them since beginning his march in Vancouver in February. Wow, long time to be walking across Canada. February. Imagine how cold it was too as well. But anyways, pretty much everyone I've talked to about it was very positive experience for them, Top said. That quote actually doesn't make sense, but anyways, they were happy to be there. They told me it meant something. It had given them hope, something we were talking about this morning, and they felt connected to something. They felt they were connected to something larger. And I want to kind of continue that, going east. I don't want to exclude the rest of the country. Top added he would resume the march in mid-July and hoped to reach St. John's by October 30th. And that's where we have a story today that goes along with that little video that I found. So here's coverage of that. That's, him being in Ottawa and some of the people that went there and some of their views about it. Let's just
Canadian Armed Forces veteran James Top arrived in Ottawa on Thursday, ending his monumental 4,000-kilometer walk across Canada in protest of federal vaccine mandates and other heavy-handed restrictions. Top was met with an army of freedom-loving supporters that were there to cheer him on and walk with him as he took his final steps of his incredible journey. And I wanted to ask some of these people why they made the trip to the capital to see and walk with James Top.
As a veteran, I was inspired. I had to come here. I just had to. There was no stopping me. Nothing would stop me from being here. And again, to see how many people were here to meet James, listen to his speech was, I'm sure, brought a tear to everybody's eye. I'm just so proud to be here.
To be here, it's a historical moment in Canadian history. This James Top, who's walked from Vancouver to Ottawa for all of us. He's not doing it just for himself, but for all of us. And for me, I was thinking this morning, every kilometer of pain, of perhaps despair, hope, and wishing for Canada to wake up. To me, it's like a wake-up cry. Please, let's wake up collectively.
I came because I am in Canada, and I've never been to Ottawa on Canada Day. So this is going to be probably the biggest and the most memorable Canada Day we ever have. 150th won't even hold a candle to it, I don't think so.
I've been following him on social media, and I live in Montreal, and it's just my patriotic duty to come and support this guy for all the services that he's given and for all the strength that he's shown to walk every step that he's walked. And I'm going to join him at the end.
Well, James Todd left about 4 months ago to come down here. I find he didn't have, the media wasn't out there to support him, and I was one of the bikes on the Rolling Thunder, and I said we got to support our military and support James.
In response to Top's anticipated arrival, as well as planned Freedom Canada Day celebrations, the City of Ottawa decided to restrict access to the downtown, and the Government of Canada installed fencing on Parliament Hill and at the Supreme Court. Given that James Top's arrival was deemed to be a celebration, I wanted to ask some of his supporters what they thought was there to fear.
The narrative of fear continues with the Mayor of Ottawa, the Liberal Party, the NDP, the press, excluding the Great True North, of course. And it's easy to succumb to fear, and it's a natural inclination to just stay away or to condemn instead of just using your critical thinking side. I think we Canadians, I implore my friends, my brothers and sisters in Canada to wake up.
There's nothing to fear the last time, there's nothing to fear this time except love. And if you want to stand back from that, then I guess you better leave town because it's going to happen one way or another.
I personally live downtown, in downtown Ottawa, and I was there when the truckers were here, I was there almost every night. I never felt so much love. I never got so many hugs. I never was fed so freely. The homeless people were giving me food. So yes, it's a huge misconception that there is any danger at all.
It's like the Ottawa convoy. There was nothing. The only time that you feel scared a bit is when you see all the cops showing up to where you are. Then you realize something's got to go on because there's too many cops. That's when that's the issue cops are having in Ottawa right now. Is they're being people think that they're just coming towards them to stop them because that's what the mayor wants them to do. Like we're afraid of jaywalking so we don't get put in jail or stopped or seize our trucks or anything. If you look around, everybody's respectful to each other. Even when I was in Ottawa or even here today, I talked to the cops. They're nice. Everybody, they're doing their job. But there's always elites higher than them that are stirring all this up.
You know what? Wouldn't have mattered what they blocked off. The people got to meet James Top. You know what? The fact that he spoke in front of the War Memorial and his speech about the war, look at that. Those men and women, that's what made Canada. I'm sorry, but they couldn't stop us from being there.
As you saw, a lot of Canadians were there, very happy to support veteran James Top as he ended his incredible march. For more coverage of freedom events, visit tnc.news and consider making a donation to support our ongoing work to bring you quality, objective, independent journalism. For True North, I'm Campinate.
Yeah, so sorry about that, everyone. Just trying to get to know, trying to handle all the technology and turn the sound off and all this as things are going on. But anyways, we're getting through this, and there you see a coverage of the speech from James Top as he made his way across Canada and made it to Ottawa and had quite a big crowd there. And that's, you probably noticed if you're watching mainstream media, you got a different feel. You got a whole different feel from those people talking than you would have got from the media, right? So this was directly just people that were there, their views, and that's very important sometimes. That's why in court, witnesses can either you sink or swim by witnesses, because if someone sees something and they know what's going on, it holds a lot of weight in court. That's why, that's what a testimonial is, if you know something for sure. So these people are there, they're experiencing it, they're explaining their experiences. But if then you, let's say I went to give my view of their experiences, that would be a lens. So then I would give my lens of what their experience were, and I could then, like the telephone game, you ever play that? And it starts off with one, paragraph or one sentence, and you say, okay, when I was 9, I liked to eat fudge because my grandfather would take me to the corner store and give me a nickel, and then we would drive to the movies after. And if you said, okay, now repeat that I couldn't even repeat that again after saying it myself, let alone other people. So it's interesting. So let's say I added a word in there, even if it was not even on purpose. It's just there's a lens of media, but getting it right from the source, it's so good to see that. And there's not much media that's following this story in a way that's just going to bring you the story itself. There seems to be a lens, and we'll look at it today. We'll see if we see a bit of a lens from something that's happened here recently with yesterday with the visiting of our Prime Minister. One of the things that James Top would have been protesting against on July 1st, right? And the truckers as well. And what comes to mind here when I hear the lady who said she was downtown, she lived downtown. So if you watched mainstream media and you were asked, what do you think the overall feeling was from people in Ottawa who lived downtown, what would you say? You would say they were very annoyed. The honking was going on all night, and they launched a lawsuit against the people of the movement and all that, because and all the stores were you would say what the media said because that's where you got your information. And you can't blame yourself, because that's where you want to know, so you're like, oh, what's going on in that capital of ours? So you turn on the TV and you go, okay, I want to hear, and they'll tell you their point of view, what's going on, and then you'll go, oh, that's terrible. Why are they keeping up all the people at night with the honking and whatever? But then you hear someone who actually lived downtown. This guy's just walking through a crowd, talking to anyone who's there, and the lady said, I supported them. I went down, and they fed me. Like, they're out of town. It's supposed to be the opposite, right? You go to a foreign town that you're not from, and usually it's them who's going to be feeding you. But it was the people coming in that were feeding the people of Ottawa who were downtown. So she said I got fed by the people that were there in protest of the mandates, and homeless people were feeding me, she said. So a little bit different than the stories you were getting from the mainstream media, maybe. And here's a little news outlet. They have to rely on donations. They don't get any support from our federal government, because the federal government would consider that misinformation. So those people you just listened to in that video are misinformation. You can't trust Canadians to say what they think and feel. It has to come through. It's going to be, they just passed a bill that we might not even be on the air anymore, because we're going to be considered not an official news source, because you're going to have to get it through official government mandated stamped media, and we will apply, and we'll probably be denied. That as long as we don't say what we're told to say, then we won't be deemed as media, like official media, and we'll be viewed as misinformation, and we'll be told that we're dangerous. You'll be told that, and that you shouldn't hear things other than from official sources. And does that sound like something to you? Does it sound like maybe some other governmental models that maybe have been, in different countries in different times? So anyways, let's look at that, right? Let's just look at it for what it is. And speaking of that, let's get into some of our local stories and things that we, the Prime Minister doesn't visit a place every day. So that's big news, right? The Prime Minister visits Sudbury yesterday. And let's just look at one of the reporters' views about that, because this is the filter through the Sudbury Star reporter, right? So this isn't through someone there. This isn't through, just talking to people and seeing what they think. This is through a Sudbury Star reporter. So let's just look at what they're saying about it. So we'll go here. We'll just share the screen. Or I might even be able to do a side-by-side here. Let's try this. Let's go here. Let's go here. And let's go back. And let's do this over again. Let's go here. Let's go here. And let's do that over again. Let's go here. There we go. Oh, my. It eventually gets done. And we'll do this. So we're just getting everything lined up here so it makes sense, so everyone can see. And then I'll get rid of that icon that's kind of right in the way of all y'all. And then we're good to go. So here you have the pictures, lots of them, about, they're planting the 10 millionth tree, which is an awesome thing. Huge world-renowned regreening program that we went through here in Sudbury, and it's something to be celebrated. We definitely did the unprecedented, the unthinkable. We turned black rock, barren, desolate, good-for-nothing surface of the earth into something that looks normal and looks like any other place in Canada, basically, or most of it, with lots of vegetation, lots of green. Our lakes are cleaner, other than the blue-green algae advisory we just got for Ramsey Lake. But anyways, I divert. So here's what the Sudbury Star had to say about this particular event. What a pleasure to hear Dr. Jane Goodall speak today at Bell Park. She and Prime Minister Justin Trudeau planted the city's 10 millionth tree as part of the City of Greater Sudbury's regreening efforts. A small group of noisy protesters showed up, prompting Dr. Goodall to ask for quiet. But generally, the crowd was ecstatic and happy to meet her and her stuffed monkey friend. There was some serious security at Bell Park today, including canine units, big guys with earpieces, and an officer who went through all the media gear. And they passed the inspection, which I'm glad they were able to get in there and cover the story. They are also giving out swag in the form of tiny burlap wrapped seedlings, which is really cool. A lot of effort went into this event. So that's one little take. And that was just a little blurb there from the Sudbury Star reporter. That wasn't really a story. That was like a social media almost comment on it kind of thing. And so there was a lot of security. Jerome, I know you're another word for them would be minions, I guess you can say. But do you see the wording here again, right? So you weren't there, let's say. I hope if you were, that's great. And you can chime in the comments and let us know what it was like. I unfortunately had to work. This is a volunteer gig for me. We're not paid. We don't get any funding from anybody at all to do this. This is just my passion and anyone who's been on this show's passion. I know none of you are getting paid to watch either. So, but if you look here, it was my pleasure to hear Dr. Jane Goodall speak today at Bell Park. She and Prime Minister Trudeau planted the city's 10 millionth tree, right? Just facts. People are there. You can't dispute that. It's not anything other than factual. Justin Trudeau was there. That's factual. Dr. Jane Goodall, factual. We planted the 10 millionth tree. That's just a fact. If you have an opinion on that, that's an opinion, but it's a fact. They were there. For the regreening efforts, we had a regreening effort. That's a fact. So first paragraph, check mark, check mark, check mark. Great reporting, right? Okay, let's look at the second. I went to school for this stuff, by the way, just to let everyone know. I have a paper. I have 2 papers, if that qualifies me. And I'm doing this volunteer on my own without even getting paid to put my art into practice. All right, so a small group of noisy protesters. Oh, first X, right? For me. Well, let's say first highlight. First highlight of a lens of now you see what kind of protesters were there. Well, they were noisy. Okay. So what does that bring to you when you read it? A small group, not even a group. So a small group, do we have the numbers here? If it said there was 35 protesters, now you would have a fact. It's like when I used to own a restaurant and people say, I want extra olives. And I'd put extra, no, more olives. The word more doesn't tell me anything other than it's up to my discretion. Or the word less. So the word small, what if there was 100,000 protesters there? And the journalist was to say, well, to me, I think 1 million is a lot. So it's a small group. So instead of saying the amount, or there was around at least 100 protesters, 150, just to get an idea. And again, this isn't even that big of an issue, but it is something to look at when you're looking at media. And I would hope that you would. A small group of what? Noisy protesters. So if your kids came over to visit, or your grandkids or whatever, and you say, the kids were really noisy this morning, what would come to your mind? Would that be, oh, yes. Oh, I love when they're noisy. It's such a good thing. You probably wouldn't. You'd probably say, oh, I'm sorry, they were noisy. That's the negative thing. Yeah. So, right? If you said, they were enthusiastic this morning. Oh, really? They were rambunctious. Lots of words can describe things, right? But the word choice is very interesting to look at. And I hope you would, when you watch news, when you read news, when you listen to news, really pay attention to the descriptive words. Because that's the DNA of spin. Words are spin. Word smithing. It's like when you are an anything smith. You can be a wordsmith, and that's what journalists are. And if you are a particular political leaning journalistic organization, which we are nowadays, we're kind of politically leaning journalistic organizations. Pay attention to those words. So let's say someone who were favorable. Let's say that True North outlet were here covering this same thing that we had yesterday. They might say an enthusiastic crowd, a large enthusiastic crowd came out to show their displeasure for some of the policies of our Prime Minister Justin Trudeau. Like give respect to the name and everything, right? Like you could say that as well, because it's a fact. People are there. People are not happy. Okay, so that's what's going on. But you can take that now, if you're reporting it through your lens, you could now spin it to the masses. And then that's what the masses are going to read. They weren't there, and they can only go through what you said. And they're now going to interpret that same thing through the wording that you gave. This is why journalists, there's integrity. So when I went through school, they talked about journalistic integrity. And I was told they don't do this kind of thing. Knowing full well, they do. So they belong to organizations and things that are supposed to hold them to accountability on how they report things. As you can see, and I hope you will continue to look at this, as you get your news. But again, I don't want to beat a dead horse. So a small group of noisy protesters showed up. Now watch this. So now this even pads the whole thing even more. How many people out there don't like Dr. Jane Goodall? I'd say very few. I would even go out on a limb and say none, unless you met her and she said something derogatory to you. How could you not, or she had some political view you read, you didn't agree with, or whatever. Dr. Jane Goodall, she lived with, primates, and she's an advocate for them. Who doesn't love monkeys? She brought a little stuffed monkey. Obviously, that was a feel-good thing. Everyone can get into that. And so the reporter, after saying small, noisy crowd, also says, and the person that everyone loves told the crowd to be quiet. So she didn't agree with what they were doing. And like a parent would to children, authority, tell those. So what does that put the protesters in right away? In that light, that they're doing something wrong, and someone with authority that everyone loves, didn't say Prime Minister Trudeau said be quiet, because here's a polarizing figure, right? It would be, but Jane Goodall says, be quiet, so we can all get along here. So anyways, I just wanted everybody, but generally the crowd was ecstatic and happy to meet her and her stuffed monkey friend. So just had to make the point that if they were protesting any particular things, that's not necessarily whatever. So now you're going to get my kind of real, I read this stuff every day, right? So, I might even take it to another level. And Aaron or AJ, you're being a little bit too hard on these words and these reporters, right? And yeah, and you could be right, and I could be, because it's all I do, and I'm like a critic, right, of that. While the handful of protesters in Bell Park were loud and disruptive. Do you see anything in there? This is Sudbury.com. So first one was Sudbury Star, second one, Sudbury.com. While the handful, so again, what does a handful tell you? Unless you got a handful of gold coins, that's a lot. But if you have a handful of anything, usually that's not much. So the limited crowd, the small crowd, saying the same thing. Again, no numbers of a crowd. At Bell Park today were loud. So it's like two reporters saying, getting together and saying, okay, what word are you going to use? I'm going to say handful, you say small. Okay, I'm going to say noisy, you say loud. Meaning, Not that they do that. They don't. But I'm saying here you have two different points of view, both through media, right? So there's the middle people. And here they're going to use their words. We saw an example of going right to the people and hearing what they have to say. Right to the people who would be deemed a small handful of noisy people that were deemed that in Ottawa in February. Those are the very people that were in Ottawa in February that this reporter was talking about. And two. Okay. So instead of, that reporter didn't even say anything. He didn't say, oh, a large crowd. Oh, they were the happiest people in the world. He said, I just had a chance to talk to them. And then you were able to see yourself what to make of it, right? So instead of reporting, that's the way reporting should be. Just go to an event, just film it, and let you make your own judgments, and don't have them filtered through a journalist. If you can't have integrity, then it's probably better to just go there and film an event and just hear what they had to say, and maybe just make clips. And even then, you can just choose what clips you put in, and you can splice them up and make someone look bad. So again, it's you can't win in that way. But just if we're able to see things for what they really are and get all the facts, our names, numbers, times, places, things like that. Reporters should be getting to the bottom of things. While the handful of protesters in Bell Park were loud and disruptive, so now you ask yourself, well, how disruptive were they? Did they punch people in the face? Disruptive. The kids are really disruptive this morning. So what does that mean? So they interrupted every single time anyone went to open their mouth, because that's disruptive, right? Or disruptive when they went, hey, I don't agree with you. That's disruptive too. So disruptive, on the scale of 1 to disruptive, that's a whole bunch of different things. So again, looking at the wording, ask yourself, what is disrupt? So you can't come to a conclusion, and when you're around the water cooler, say, yeah, oh my goodness, did you read? Did you hear? Because that's what we do as human beings, and we get it from the media. Did you hear this? And then it perpetuates like the telephone game. Then everyone talks about it. The media will visit you again that night to give you another dose of a little bit of spin and whatever. And yes, there is spin. You get very little facts in today's media, unfortunately. Different from what I was told in school. Because reality is often different. Do you ever go to school for something and then you show up on the job and they say, forget everything you learned in school. Here's how it's really done. Yeah, kind of same as that. So here's a comment. One comment. That's all we have. Seriously, people, you can hate Trudeau. You can hate Trudeau all you want, but leave Dr. Goodall alone. She's done remarkable work and doesn't need this abuse. So do you see what effect that headline had on this individual? And you see the dangers of social media? So the individual is not responding to this, even the whole story, probably never read the whole story, probably wasn't there, or would have said, I was there, and I saw this, and I'm going to make this comment now. This person is commenting to the headline. And what did I say before? Dr. Jane Goodall is loved by everyone. And it's looking like the crowd was against her. Do you think the crowd was going down there to protest anything Jane Goodall has ever done or stands for or is at all? Ask yourself that. But because of the headline of these two two different media outlets in town, there were angry people there giving everyone a hard time. They don't say. Did they go over to the protesters and say, hey, what are you guys doing here? What are you against? Look at this one picture. Every child matters, Manitoulin Island. So again, I guess they were a little sloppy in their spin. Does every child matter on Manitoulin Island? Look at the coloring of that. Where do you think that person represents? Indigenous people. Indigenous people there to protest what? Jane Goodall and her work with primates? Really, honestly? So I think they're there to protest. And look, you have another First Nation flag. Why wasn't the story? Oh, there were First Nation people here. That could have been a headline, because they can make any headline they want, because they're the journalists. They're the lens. If you put your glasses on someone else's eyes, you're just going to see whatever that those lenses want you to see. If you put on 3D glasses, you're going to see the movie in 3D. If you go into a 3D movie and someone else puts someone else's glasses on, you ain't going to see that movie in 3D. Period. Now, we had a bunch of comments coming in. Sorry, I was kind of paying attention to this too, so I'm just going to go back to some of the comments here. Yeah, Miles, obviously. Yeah, security for the event would have been pretty darn elaborate, you would think. I would think that's normal, right? That's not anything to get on or whatever. Sudbury Star was just saying there's a lot of security. And I appreciate this too. I appreciate you, Jerome. Thank you. And I definitely do. You have some really poignant comments on the shows. So yeah, you're right. So again, I said Jane Goodall. He says she might have been used as a political, for political reasons before with some of the work that she's been doing. That's true. But I don't think any of those people yesterday were there for that reason. And you can make the argument that Trudeau's politics is disruptive. You are right. Some of the policies he makes, some of the statements he says, like, oh my goodness, dividing statements. He's not there saying, hey, we're all Canadians. He's like, no, only certain Canadians are Canadians. No, am I right on that one? Kind of only sides with certain ones. And then Nancy, it's all about Trudeau. Sad Jane was in the crossfire. Yeah, exactly. See, we all love Jane. Most people do. And these protesters weren't there for that. So anyways, KED, we'll come back with more KED on Monday. We're going to be talking about that for a while. We're going to be talking about the city and how they spend and the politics of the city and who we can vote for coming up and maybe a change in city council coming up, But I'm glad that all you kind of stuck with me this morning as I kind of self-indulged my whole passion of media and media coverage with something that was local. It is something to celebrate. So let's get this media out there. I think celebrating these people came all the way from Manitoulin Island as well. That's something to be celebrated. And, to talk about issues, let's sit down with them and talk to them about what they were there for. What did they have to say? That's what protesting is usually for. And it's not, we can't pick and choose which issues are relevant or not. I think all Canadians have relevant issues. No? So thanks for joining us this morning. Thanks for joining me, I guess, for the first time, doing a whole hour by myself. Have a great weekend, everyone. Looks like it's going to be great weather. Get out there, get some fresh air. Enjoy today and have a marvelous, marvelous day. And stay tuned now, all you who are listening on CKLU for Earshot Daily. We'll be back same time, same place, Monday morning. Ciao, everyone.
Is Sudbury News Talk on the morning.